This is the Field Notes from the Proving, short reflections from inside the process of building a life that's earned, not perfected, earned. Some goals are safe. They sound good. They make you look responsible. They make sense on paper. They don't offend anyone. They don't scare you too much. They don't ask you to become someone new. And then there are the dangerous goals, the ones that wake something up, the ones that you pull out of survival mode, the ones that make your current life start to feel a little too small, the ones that force you to confront the gap between who you've been and who you're actually looking to become. Because once you admit what you really want, you can't unhear it. And that's where it gets dangerous. At first, goals feel casual. They live in the realm of maybe, maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll train for that. Maybe I'll become that kind of person. Maybe one day. And the truth is, let's call it, maybe is comfortable because maybe doesn't require identity. Maybe doesn't demand consistency, and maybe definitely doesn't threaten the structure of your life. But eventually something changes. A goal crosses a line. It stops being a funny, cute idea. It stops becoming something you say to motivate yourself. It starts becoming a mirror. Because now the goal isn't outside of you anymore. And now it exposes you and exposes everything. Your habits, your disciplines, your excuses, your fears. And once a goal starts doing that, it becomes dangerous. Not because it's unrealistic, but because it's honest. Running had already stopped being an experiment in my life. It wasn't just a side challenge anymore. It had become something else. Every race, every long run, every improvement started asking a much bigger question. How far are you actually willing to go with this? But the truth is, most goals aren't really about the thing itself. Not the race, not the time, not the medal. There's always something underneath it. Because when people chase something big, they're usually chasing what it means, what it proves, what it heals, what it unlocks. For me, running had started to represent something much bigger. Freedom, proof, identity, self-respect, a different future, a life bigger than the one I was been basically sleepwalking through my entire life at this point, and goals that don't stay contained. They start touching everything, your routines, your standards, your confidence, your expectations for your own life. That's when a goal becomes disruptive because it starts making your old life feel incompatible with the future version of yourself. And there's another piece of the story that happened during the quiet week between Christmas and New Year's. And honestly, I'd be lying if I said I spent that week really relaxing, just crocheting and watching movies and hanging out. Because honestly, that's not what happened. What actually happened was reflection. Because when I looked back on 2024, something to me really stood out. Two things had happened that I never really happened before in my life. Was that one, I made a change, and two, I followed through. I'd committed to something, running specifically, and I'd completed 2 half marathons. And it might sound small, but internally it felt enormous because for the first time in a long time, something worked. Not in theory, not in a productivity plan. It worked in real life. And looking back at the variables, I trained, I showed up, I finished twice. And that realization created a question in my head that week. If this worked, what else could work? If I can change one part of my life, what would happen if I changed all of it? And that's when the idea of what I now call a total life rehab started forming. I started auditing everything, literally everything. My health, my routines, my work, money, my habits, mindsets, relationships, spirituality. I looked at the parts of my life that were working, the parts that weren't, and I started picking them apart, literally inch by inch, slice by slice. But in true Chris fashion, something else happened around that time that revealed something uncomfortable about myself. I was talking to someone who told me that they had run 4 half marathons. My first reaction, awe, inspiration, happiness for them. I was genuinely curious and I wanted to hear all about it. But then there was another reaction inside me, a darker one. I was furious, not at them, at the idea, because running had become such an important symbol in my life in 2024. It had become my proof. proof that I could change, proof that I could commit, proof that I could suffer through something and finish it. And when someone else casually mentioned that they had done 4, my perfectionist brain said something ugly. That if they can do it, Chris, then you're not exceptional, meaning I am not exceptional. And that moment I heard that voice, I realized something even more important. My perfectionism hadn't disappeared whatsoever. It just had found a brand new arena to compete in. Running had become the new scoreboard. And if someone else could do it, then I had to go bigger. Not to compete with them, but to become undeniable. So as 2025 approached, I set goals, huge ones, dangerous ones. The first one was simple: run 1 half marathon every month, 12 half marathons by December of 2025. The second goal escalated quickly. If you can run half marathons, well, Chris, then you're a coward if you don't try the full thing. So I told myself something ridiculous. You're not running 1 marathon, Chris. You're going to run 2. And I kept going. I want to earn 2 certifications, improve my savings, eat better, fix my training, adjust my weightlifting, because I felt like if I was spending too much time in the gym with limited results, get involved with a charity, find more spirituality, read more. Oh, and ask deeper questions about my life. But the biggest question of all was this: why do I keep chasing more and more and more and still feel like it's not enough? Because by December 31st, 2024, something strange was true. I'd accomplished real things. I still felt miserable though. The transformation I thought would change everything hadn't fully changed me. And that realization made the goals even bigger. Because deep down, I realized something uncomfortable. These goals weren't about just achievement. They were about control. If I could control my discipline, my body, my routines, maybe I could finally control my life. Maybe I could build a life that actually belonged to me, a life on my terms. But the real question was honestly this: what did I really learn in 2024? Because the obvious answer was simple. If I set my mind to something, I can achieve it, right? That much was proven. I committed, trained, I finished twice. So I knew something now that I didn't fully believe before. If I decide to do something, there's a real chance that I'm going to make it happen. But there was another truth hiding inside that lesson. Even though I accomplished something meaningful, there was still a part of me operating inside the formula, still performing, still chasing some level of proof, still trying in some way to impress people. And that's something I knew I had to work on. But there were moments during those races where something felt different, moments where I was genuinely proud of myself, not because someone saw it, not because someone else approved, just honestly proud. And that feeling was rare enough in my life that it stuck with me. So when I started to set these huge goals in 2025, what I was really chasing wasn't just discipline. It wasn't just performance. It was, sadly, the ability to feel proud for myself more often. I really wanted that. Because in 2024, that pride showed up in moments. But what I wanted in 2025 was something bigger. I wanted to feel proud of myself all the time, not just at a finish line. But maybe the simplest way to say all of this is that in August of 2024, I didn't really like who I was. Not in some dramatic way, but in that quiet, honest way where something about your life just doesn't feel aligned. And by December 31st of 2024, something had shifted. I didn't have everything figured out. I hadn't fixed my life, but I wanted more of who I could honestly become. Someone who was consistently proud of what they were doing, someone who was building a life that they could look at and say, yeah, this is the life that I want. A life that for a long time, I thought I could only dream about. And maybe that's 2025, looking ahead. It was about not proving something to the world, but actually trying to become the person that I actually wanted to be.